Ancient protest art. A blank canvas is a promise. A block of marble is a question. But in the hands of an artist with a cause, they become something else entirely, a weapon. Not a weapon of steel and fire, but one of pigment, light, and shadow. A weapon that targets not the body, but the mind, the conscience, the very soul of a society. Long before the 24-hour news cycle and the viral hashtag, art was the original medium for dissent. It was the permanent record of a fleeting cry for justice, the visual testimony against the official story, and the silent scream that could echo for centuries. This isn't a new phenomenon. The act of using creativity to challenge power is a tradition as old as power itself, a timeless battle fought on the walls of cities and the pages of history. To truly understand this, we must travel back to a smoke-filled, blood-soaked night in 1808. Spain is under the brutal occupation of Napoleon's forces. The people of Madrid have risen up, and the reprisal is swift and merciless. In the dead of night, ordinary citizens are dragged from their homes and executed by firing squad. It's a moment of state-sanctioned terror designed to crush the spirit of a nation. For years, the official art of war had been one of heroic generals on horseback, of glorious, sanitized victories. But the Spanish painter Francisco Goya would refuse to play that game. 6 years later, he would unveil a masterpiece that would forever change how we see conflict, the 3rd of May, 1808. This was not a painting of glory, it was a painting of slaughter. Look closely at its composition. The French soldiers are a monolithic, faceless killing machine. Their backs are to us, their humanity erased, reduced to a line of rifles and bayonets. They are an engine of death. But the victims, the Spanish rebels, are a chaotic, terrified, utterly human collection of individuals. In the center, illuminated by a stark, almost supernatural lantern light, is a man in a simple white shirt. His arms are thrown wide in a gesture that simultaneously evokes surrender and a crucifixion. His eyes are wide with terror and disbelief. He is not a hero in the classical sense. He is a man about to be murdered, and Goya forces us to be his witness. We see the crumpled bodies of those already shot, lying in pools of their own blood. We see the monk praying, the man clenching his fists in defiance, the others hiding their faces in horror. Goya doesn't just depict an event, he plunges us into the raw, sickening reality of it. He uses every tool at his disposal, the dramatic chiaroscuro, the visceral brushstrokes, the raw emotionality, to condemn the atrocity. With this single canvas, Goya weaponized realism, creating a universal anti-war icon that declared with no words at all that there is no glory in this kind of mechanized, inhuman violence. It was a direct assault on the propaganda of empire. A century later, the world would once again be consumed by a war of unprecedented brutality. World War I saw the horrifying marriage of industrial technology and mass slaughter. Millions died in the mud of the trenches for inches of land. In the face of such catastrophic, senseless violence, traditional art seemed not just inadequate but complicit. How could one paint a beautiful landscape when the world was a cratered, poisoned wasteland? Out of this profound disillusionment, a radical new movement was born in the neutral city of Zurich, Dada. Dada was not just an art style, it was an anti-art, anti-logic, anti-everything howl of rage. The Dadaists believed that the bourgeois logic and rationalism that society held so dear had led directly to the carnage of the war. Their response? To attack that logic with absurdity, chaos, and irrationality. They created sound poems of nonsensical syllables. They staged performances designed to infuriate the audience. And most potently, they pioneered the art of photomontage. Artists like Hannah Hook and Raoul Hausmann would literally take the media of the establishment, newspapers, magazines, advertisements, and chop them into pieces, reassembling them into nightmarish, satirical critiques of the society that produced them. Hook's masterpiece, cut with the kitchen knife Dada through the last Weimar beer belly cultural epic of Germany, is a perfect example. It's a sprawling, chaotic collage that juxtaposes images of political leaders with machine parts, dancers, and Dadaist slogans. It's a visual representation of a society tearing itself apart. Dadaism was a weapon of intellectual sabotage. It didn't offer a solution, it reveled in the problem. It sought to tear down the cultural structures that supported the war machine by exposing their inherent absurdity. It was a protest not just against a war, but against a whole way of thinking. But what happens when art is used not just to tear down, but to build up? In the wake of the Mexican Revolution in the 1920s, the nation was faced with a monumental task, forging a new, unified identity and educating a population that was largely illiterate. The government turned to artists, commissioning them to paint the nation's story on the walls of its public buildings. This was the birth of Mexican muralism, a movement that transformed art from a commodity for the rich into a public textbook for the masses. At its forefront was the towering figure of Diego Rivera. Rivera and his contemporaries, like David Alfaro Siqueiros and José Clemente Orozco, used the ancient technique of fresco painting to create vast, epic narratives that were accessible to everyone, regardless of their ability to read. Rivera's murals in the National Palace in Mexico City are a stunning example. They are a sprawling, panoramic history of Mexico, from its ancient indigenous roots to the modern class struggle. Rivera celebrated the worker, the farmer, the indigenous heritage that had been suppressed for centuries. He depicted the brutalities of the Spanish conquest and the heroism of the Revolution. This was not subtle, allegorical art. This was a direct, powerful, and unapologetically political statement. It was a tool for instilling national pride and revolutionary values. By placing this art on public walls, the muralists reclaimed visual culture for the people, bypassing the exclusive world of galleries and private collections. They demonstrated that art could be a foundational tool in the very construction of a new society, a weapon not of critique, but of education and empowerment. From Goya's cry of anguish to Dada's chaotic laughter and Rivera's epic instruction, these early movements proved that art could be far more than decoration. It could be a mirror, a hammer, and a blueprint, a potent force for shaping human consciousness. Block 2. Digital Activism Street Art. The foundational principles laid by Goya, the Dadaists, and the Mexican muralists to document, to disrupt, and to educate have not faded. They have mutated, adapted, and accelerated, finding new life on the most democratic and chaotic canvas of all, the modern world. The gallery has expanded from the palace wall to the brick alleyway, from the public square to the infinite scroll of the digital screen. The core mission remains the same, but the weapons have evolved, becoming faster, more ephemeral, and capable of reaching a global audience in the blink of an eye. The fight for hearts and minds is now waged with spray cans in the dead of night and with pixels that circle the globe before the authorities can even react. Perhaps no single figure embodies this transition more than the anonymous, ghost-like entity known as Banksy. Part artist, part prankster, part social critic, Banksy has turned the entire world into his personal gallery. His weapon of choice is the stencil, a tool that allows for speed, precision, and a quick escape. His works appear unannounced, overnight, on a forgotten wall in Bristol or a security barrier in the West Bank. Each piece is a surgical strike, a simple, iconic image loaded with layers of satire and social commentary. A young girl frisking a heavily armed soldier. A protester hurling a bouquet of flowers instead of a Molotov cocktail. A rat, his recurring symbol for the downtrodden and the resilient, holding a sign that reads, "You lie." Banksy's power lies in his mastery of the visual punchline. His art is instantly understandable, transcending language barriers. It forces a double take, a moment of cognitive dissonance that breaks through the noise of daily life. By placing his art in the public domain, he reclaims urban space from the advertisers and the authorities, turning a mundane wall into a site of pilgrimage and political debate. His anonymity is also a crucial part of his strategy. It keeps the focus squarely on the message, not the personality. It adds to the mystique, turning each new piece into a global news event. Furthermore, Banksy brilliantly plays with the very system he critiques. When his girl with balloon painting famously shredded itself moments after being sold for over $1 million at a Sotheby's auction, it was a stunning piece of performance art. The girl with balloon painting half-shredded in its ornate frame. It was a direct attack on the commodification of art, a prank that questioned the absurd values of the art market live on one of its biggest stages. Banksy is the modern evolution of the court jester, speaking truth to power through wit and stealth, proving that a can of spray paint can be more disruptive than a 1,000-page manifesto. But what if the wall itself is digital? What if the protest can be replicated and remixed 1 million times over by 1 million different people? Welcome to the age of digital activism, where the most potent weapon is often the meme. It's easy to dismiss memes as trivial online jokes, but to do so is to fundamentally misunderstand their power. A meme is a unit of cultural information, an idea that spreads from person to person within a culture. In the political sphere, they are the folk art of the 21st century. They are ridiculously easy to create, almost impossible to censor, and can distill a complex political argument into a single, shareable, often humorous image. Think of the "this is fine" dog sitting in a burning room, calmly stating, "This is fine." It has become a universal shorthand for governmental incompetence or public apathy in the face of looming disaster. During the Arab Spring, activists used simple, shareable graphics and memes to organize protests and circumvent state-controlled media. During the Black Lives Matter movement, powerful digital art, infographics, and repurposed memes spread awareness and information faster than any traditional news outlet could. This form of art is decentralized, leaderless, and democratic. It's a collective conversation happening in real time. Beyond the meme, artists are using technology to create more sophisticated forms of digital protest. Online art installations can create immersive experiences that educate users about issues like climate change or data privacy. Augmented reality apps can overlay protest art onto government buildings, visible only through a user's phone. This digital graffiti cannot be scrubbed off the walls. It exists in a parallel, virtual space, a testament to art's incredible adaptability. This adaptability is pushed to its most visceral and confrontational extreme by performance art collectives, and none are more famous or infamous than the Russian feminist punk group Pussy Riot. Their art is not something you hang on a wall. It's an event, a physical intrusion into a space of power. Their most famous performance, the 2012 Punk Prayer inside Moscow's Cathedral of Christ the Savior, was a raw, chaotic, and brilliant piece of political theater. 3 women in brightly colored balaclavas and simple dresses, thrashing and screaming inside an ornate, golden cathedral. For less than a minute, they begged the Virgin Mary to drive Putin away. The performance itself was fleeting, but its documentation, the video uploaded to YouTube, was permanent. The art piece wasn't just the performance, it was the entire sequence of events that followed: their arrest, their show trial, and their imprisonment. The bright balaclavas became an instant global symbol of resistance against authoritarianism. Pussy Riot weaponized their own bodies and their own freedom. They understood that in a state that controls the media, the only way to get a message out is to create a spectacle so shocking that it cannot be ignored. They deliberately provoked the state into a disproportionate response, and in doing so, exposed its brutality and intolerance to the entire world. Their trial became a bigger piece of performance art than the original prayer. From the clandestine stencils of Banksy to the viral spread of a meme and the calculated martyrdom of Pussy Riot, modern protest art leverages the tools of our time, anonymity, instant dissemination, and the power of spectacle, to ensure that even in an age of information overload, the voice of dissent cannot and will not be silenced. Block 3. Impact challenges future. So, how does it actually work? What is the alchemical process that turns a smear of paint, a digital image, or a punk rock scream into a genuine threat to an established power structure? The power of art as a weapon lies in its unique ability to operate on multiple fronts simultaneously, bypassing the logical defenses of the mind and striking directly at our emotions, our ethics, and our shared sense of humanity. It's a form of asymmetrical warfare for the soul. One of its most crucial functions is its ability to bypass the censor's pen. In regimes where direct criticism of the government is met with imprisonment or worse, art can speak in code. A painter can use allegory and symbolism to critique a dictator without ever mentioning his name. A cartoonist can exaggerate the features of a corrupt politician into a grotesque caricature, a visual ridicule that is far more difficult to prosecute than a written accusation. Art operates in a gray area of interpretation. The state can claim a poem is treasonous, but the artist can always counter, "You're misinterpreting my metaphor." This ambiguity is its shield. It allows subversive ideas to be planted in the public consciousness, growing and spreading in a way that overt political speech simply cannot. Art is the Trojan horse that carries the message of dissent past the city gates. Beyond this stealth, art is an incredible engine for fostering solidarity. A political movement needs more than just a list of grievances. It needs a flag, a symbol, a shared identity. Art provides this. Think of the simple, powerful image of the clenched fist, first used by anti-fascist movements in the 1920s and later adopted by everyone from the Black Power movement to feminist activists. This single, non-verbal symbol communicates a world of meaning, strength, defiance, unity, and refusal to be broken. When people see this symbol, they feel a connection to something larger than themselves. A viral image, a protest song, a shared piece of graffiti, these things create an emotional glue that binds individuals together into a cohesive whole. They are a constant reminder that you are not alone in your anger, your hope, or your struggle. And, crucially, art serves as the conscience of history. When governments commit atrocities, their first act is often to control the narrative, to erase the event from the official record, to deny that it ever happened. Art fights this erasure. Like Goya's painting of the firing squads, art can serve as an unshakable testimony. The artist becomes the witness for the prosecution against the crimes of the state. Consider the work of Chinese artist Ai Weiwei. After the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, the Chinese government suppressed the names and numbers of the thousands of schoolchildren who died in shoddily constructed schools. In response, Ai Weiwei launched a citizens' investigation collecting the names of the dead children. He then created a monumental installation titled Remembering, using 9,000 children's backpacks to spell out a quote from one of the victims' mothers on the facade of a German museum. The piece was a visually stunning and emotionally devastating memorial that refused to let the world forget the human cost of corruption. It was an act of remembering as an act of resistance. But this power comes at a profound cost. To wield art as a weapon is to make oneself a target. For every celebrated Banksy, there are thousands of artists who face dire consequences for their work. The Turkish-Kurdish artist Zehra Dogan was sentenced to nearly 3 years in prison for a single watercolor painting depicting the destruction of a Turkish town by state security forces. The government didn't charge her with a crime, they charged her painting with being a terrorist propaganda. They recognized the image itself as the weapon. Ai Weiwei was detained for 81 days in a secret location and had his studio bulldozed by the authorities. Throughout history, artists, poets, and musicians have been exiled, imprisoned, and even killed for daring to create work that challenged the powerful. This risk is the ultimate validation of art's power. Regimes don't imprison people for making pretty pictures. They imprison them for creating dangerous ideas. So, what is the future of this eternal conflict? As technology continues to evolve, so too will the artist's arsenal. Will AI-generated art become the next frontier of protest, creating endlessly adaptable propaganda or deepfakes that satirize political leaders in real time? How will activists use decentralized technologies like NFTs and blockchain to fund dissident art beyond the reach of state control? The questions are as complex as they are urgent. We must also consider the ethical boundaries. When does powerful protest art cross the line into manipulative propaganda? And how do we guard against the inevitable co-option of protest aesthetics by corporate advertising, which dilutes and neutralizes the power of these symbols? The battle continues, and the canvas will continue to change. But the fundamental power of art remains. It may not single-handedly topple a government, but it does something arguably more important. It changes the way we see. It erodes the foundations of power by exposing its lies, questioning its authority, and, most importantly, imagining a different world. Art is the weapon that creates the possibility of change, planting the seeds of a new reality in the minds of millions long before it ever takes root in the streets.